the day before I decided to stop drinking, I was sitting in my bathroom. I had a loaded 9mm and I was sitting on my toilet and I had my hand in the shower and I was waiting for the water to get warm. And as soon as it got warm, I was going to get in and I was going to pull the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sacred Medicine, where we destigmatize medicines of the past for a future of wellness. Today, we're going to be talking with Jay from Maryland about how he's used entheogens, plant medicines, to deal with trauma from the military all the way to saving his marriage. Welcome to another episode of Sacred Medicine, everybody. My name is Jake, and today we have Jay from Maryland with us today, and he's going to be walking us through his story from being in the military, dealing with trauma, into what he's currently experiencing and what's going on in his life. Sacred Medicine is a show where we're talking all about destigmatizing medicines of the past for a future of wellness. Jay, how are you doing today?
Great, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So good to have you today. Without any further ado, though, let's just jump right into it.
Cool.
Let's hear a little bit about your history.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Massachusetts, in New England, and drinking and alcohol abuse is really prevalent in my story. It's what got me to the point where I am now. I went to college. I joined ROTC in 1988. So I've been in somewhat form of military service for a very long time. It was 30 years when I got out. I retired in 2018. But it's very important to go back and talk about there was a lot of trauma. It's not. Everyone says thank you for your service and all that stuff, but they don't really realize like what you do. So serving your country also means, being away from your family for a very long time. It also means, coming home and being different, asking your wife why you guys haven't made love in 3 months. And she says, because I'm afraid of you. They don't see that stuff. They just thank you for your service because it's a polite thing to say, and trust me, we appreciate it. We really do. But those things build up. And it's funny when you get back from every deployment, they always ask you, do you want to see a psychology professional? Do you want to see a mental health professional? And if you do, they keep you for another 2 weeks. Right. So after you've been gone for a year, what's the only thing you want to do? You want to go home and you want to hold your kids and you want to have a cold freaking beer and just scream at the top of your lungs and go ride your mountain bike in the desert. That's all I wanted to do during all my deployments. And I drank during all my deployments, which is a big no-no. But I did it anyway because, I can honestly say I'm a recovering alcoholic. My sobriety date is June 14th, 2015. I'll have 7 years in June if I don't drink or die. And that's kind of what brought me to this place. I was sober and I was crazy, right? So I see a lot of people just not drink, right? And these are people with problems now, not the person that, has a glass of wine at an open bar wedding and leaves half of it, and then goes home, and doesn't beat their kids. Those people, I couldn't.
Who are they?
Yeah, I couldn't.
Who doesn't beat their kids?
Who doesn't? That's the cool part though. I've never, well, see, and I say this during my shares, I've never hit my wife with my hands, but I beat the living shit out of her with my mouth. If that makes any sense. I was an asshole. I was a narcissistic, egotistical. I was a prick. I'm Irish and Italian. Throw some beer and some Jaeger in me and you get, I'm like Forrest Gump, right? Jay's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. I could be happy as, but I only had 2 moods. I was miserable because I either wasn't drinking or I drank too much, or I had that sweet spot, that I always tried to, attain and then sustain. I retired in 2018. I went through, I've had over a dozen surgeries since then. I've had C6 and C7 replaced. They cut a disc out of my lower spine. I've had my right wrist reconstructed. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries. I've been through a lot of the physical shit is I mean, we deal with it, right? But it's the emotional stuff that kind of caught up to me. And I met this guy. I don't know if you've ever been to a sound bath or ever heard of sound healing. So on Sundays, a bunch of people would show up at this guy's house just at random. I come to find out later he was in the program. I started going faithfully every Sunday to listen to these sounds, right? And each bowl corresponds with a different chakra. So, if you'd asked me, 7 years ago, like this was all just hippie, folky shit, bunch of losers and stuff like that. But then I went to, I guess you want to say spiritual school, and I became a Reiki level 1, level 2, and now I'm a Reiki master. I've been practicing, I have my own Reiki practice. I've been doing it for about 3.5 years. I help people with trauma. I help people with addiction. I help people with, you name it. There was still something missing. You know what I'm saying, Jake? There's still like that gnawing, like, so, I'm 3 years sober. Why am I still having nightmares? I'm 3 years sober. I quit smoking cigarettes. You know what I mean? I got divorced from my wife, and we're still friends. And I got remarried to this amazing woman. And that's my wife. I mean, like, really, I did not Photoshop that from a Victoria's Secret magazine. That is really my wife. And I was the happiest guy on the planet, right? Or was I? I should have been. Dude, I freaking had everything, right? I had everything, and I was still miserable, and I couldn't fit it. Just, and there are other people that will tell you, you look at my life like on Facebook, right? I had everything. I got a house, I got a brand new car, I got a 6-figure job, I got two great kids, 2 great step kids, cat, dog, mouse, all that bullshit. I had everything, bro. And I still felt like it wasn't enough, that I wasn't enough, that something was missing, et cetera, et cetera. So a friend of mine who'd been through quite a few journeys introduced me to a gentleman in Baltimore and said, you got to see this guy. And so we went and we met and we talked. He convinced me. He's like, listen, we're having a group journey. I think you'll like it, et cetera, et cetera. I couldn't go to this one. He said, but if you can't make this one, there's a place in Florida, and it's called Soul Quest. And Soul Quest sponsors a bunch of different like veterans organizations. So I ended up heading down with my wife. And
real quick to interrupt,
yep.
Soul Quest is a retreat center or a church. I'm not sure what they're actually classified as
church
in the moment, but a church that their sacrament is ayahuasca.
Correct.
All right, continue on.
Yep. So I brought this up to my wife, and show me anybody on the planet over 5 years old that doesn't have any kind of trauma whatsoever. Really, you if you got beat by your mother or you got ignored by your mother, and I'm not saying that happened to me, I'm just saying it's and then take a bunch of military guys who've been through hell and back together, and then give them nothing to cope, and then add alcohol or drugs, it's usually the case, and it's a recipe for disaster. So I ended up we went down to Florida. I walked into the place and I said, hey, Chris, he's the owner. I said, where's the veterans? And he says, you'll find them. So sure enough, I walked outside, and there's just a circle of guys all smoking cigarettes, all covered in tattoos, right? All covered in tattoos, and they were loud. And I said, hey guys, what's up? And I introduced myself, and I'm still friends with 4 of them I stayed in touch with, like, intentionally. And, that was 4 years ago. And the journey was, you got to experience it for yourself. If you're listening and you haven't, it's surreal. It's like it knows everything about you and teaches you about everything that you thought you knew, and kind of like rewrites your story. It's always going to be your story. It's always going to be your spirit and your soul and your life. But it's a lot of us sometimes have this, we have a different perception. I just met Jake today, right? And I think he's a good looking dude, and, and he's a cool guy for doing this stuff. And that's my perception of him, but, say I talk to one of his ex-girlfriends and she may have a different perception of him, I mean, who
impossible.
knows? Right,
They all think I'm amazing.
He's a teddy bear, right? So, but what I'm saying is with life, life kind of gets twisted, man. And we come up with these things in our head, especially trauma survivors. And it's a coping mechanism. That's all it is. It's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just, it is what it is. And people hate when I say that, but tough shit, it is what it is. So yeah, the journey has been amazing. So that was just my first journey. I did 3 down there. I came back to Baltimore, and this gentleman that told me about Soul Quest introduced me to Combo, and Combo is a frog medicine. I actually have one tattooed on. I have a Combo frog tattooed on my neck now because of it.
There you go.
It was one of another amazing. So it's non-hallucinogenic, but I will tell you, I had cancer back in early 2000. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and when I went through the Combo ceremony, I did it 3 times in a lunar cycle, which is what you're recommended to do. I purged whatever chemo residual was left, Jake. It was like I could taste it. I could smell the hospital. I could smell because all chemo is an IV. They stick an IV in you for like 5 hours, and they just pump you full of poison. And it was 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago, and I could still taste it. With the Combo. Done a few journeys since then. I've sat with Mexican shamans and did peyote. I sat with a Brazilian guy, and we did a mushroom journey. I took a mega hero. There's a hero dose, and then there's a mega hero dose. That's 2 handfuls, because I'm not only am I crazy, I'm tough, right? So
how'd that go for you?
I'll tell you what. I got to swim down to the Titanic, to the actual Titanic, and I could see the souls of the people that had gone down on the ship. They were still trapped, and I could call these dolphins. Now, I wasn't human. Like when I put my hands in front of my face, I could see the web, and I could feel myself breathing through my neck, through my gills. It was almost like I was, I don't know, like a merman or Aquaman or something like that. But I was an underwater subhuman creature. It was pretty wild. And I called all these dolphins, and they started swimming in a massive circle and created a whirlpool, so the other dolphins could swim down because it was so deep, and they would go down, and I would take a soul and I would put it inside the body of the dolphin, and the dolphin would head back up and take it to the surface. And I physically did this physical motion for about a half an hour until every last soul had been extracted, if you will, from the Titanic. Like I was there. Like I can describe it. I can, just because I watched the movie, but I can describe it with intricate detail. Like I was physically inside that ship. So it was, that's how it worked for me. And then a few years ago, my wife was in a car accident, and she was hurt. She wasn't in a wheelchair or anything, but her back has been nagging her for years. And you take the sweetest woman on the planet, and you put her in pain, and sometimes she's not so sweet anymore, And we were kind of at the end of our marriage, and I told her a week ago that something had to change, or I'm 53, bro. I've lived like 6 lives already, and I just, I love my wife, but I can't. There's certain things, you have to put up boundaries. You have to learn when to say no, and say it gently, and say it with kindness. And I convinced her to do a journey with me with MDMA. A good friend of mine, former active duty Army officer. We were in the same unit together. Really good friend. He lives out in the Midwest somewhere, and he highly recommended MDMA to me. And I brought it up to my wife, and she's like, "No, I don't think so." And I kind of begged her. I was like, "Listen, this could save our marriage." I said, if you want to save our marriage. If you don't, then okay. I had given her my lawyer's number on a piece of paper, and I said, "Just call her." She said she would, do mediation, and I'd be out by June, like 2 months, I'd be gone. So we, not getting into too much detail, we let's put it this way. I got my wife back this weekend. Jake, I can't tell you how fucking grateful I am for Mother Earth, for grandfather, for the planets, the universe, all this space and time, right? And I met this one person at church who was singing, and I fell in love with her that day. And let me tell you, I fell in love with her times 10 on Friday night. Refell, felt, I don't know the term you want to call it, but I got my wife back. She apologized. She cried for hours. Well, we both did. But she cried for hours, and she said, "I need to be a better wife to you. I need to be a better friend to you." And she says, "I'm just so afraid you're going to leave me." And think about it. What besides pain? What's the other thing that's one of the most motivating factors on this planet? Fear. People live in so much fear. They, my mantra is this: worry or pray, but you can't do both. You can't do both. You got to pick one. Oh, I'm worried about Ukraine. Well, guess what? Ukraine's been there for thousands of years, right? And yes, people are going to die, and it's dreadful. And as a 28-year Army veteran, I think it's bullshit, But you know what I do? I pray instead, because I can get mad as I want, and angry to me equals drinking. Angry to me equals that the negative energy, the negative. You are what you think. You are what you think.
So thank you for sharing all of that. And there's so many different threads that I could pull out of that. But I think I'm going to start with the one unifying thread, which is also what, this podcast is going to primarily focus on, which is, it sounds like through many of the different experiences that you've been going through, the 6 lifetimes that you say that you've lived, from relational issues being most recent to integrating and dealing with the trauma that you experienced. It sounds like really before your military career in your family, because you mentioned that you come from a family of military men and that there was some tendencies towards substance usage to deal with things. Through these experiences, sounds like you're finding that these plant and animal medicines are helping you break through problems, situations, traumas that otherwise seem like they're not resolving themselves with ordinary means.
Yeah, like I said, brother, I've been through, I can't tell you how many counseling sessions. And even before I got sober, my children's mother and I had been to, 4 or 5 different counselors. And we finally met one in Providence, Rhode Island. She was from Harvard. And she said, "You two will make the best divorced couple I've ever seen." And I looked at her and I went, "Hallelujah." And she said, "I could sit here for weeks and months telling the two of you, write down what you like about this person and write down what you like about that person." And, let me tell you, I'm going to address your audience right now. Listen, if you can hear my voice and you're in what's called a gray marriage, right? You're going to know what that means right away. It's like my beard, right? You're going to be like, you know what? I love my wife, but I can't stand her at the same time. Or I love my husband, but he's such a jerk. We don't talk, we don't communicate, blah, blah, blah. If you want to live the rest of your life that way, then that's fine, because pretending that it's going to get better isn't going to work. I'm telling you. I sponsor a lot of men in a recovery program. And it's never been any different with me or with anyone else. And I help a lot of women as a Reiki master, and it's the same thing over and over again. There's something about this medicine that will see if you don't know, you will know. That's the difference. And that's what I told my wife. I said, I want to know. I said, I want to know if you still love me. And MDMA will, you can't hide it. Okay, you're either gonna be, you're either gonna say, you know what, I love you, but I'm not in love. I don't feel that I miss you when you're gone. I think about you when you're not around. And if you died, I'd be devastated, right? Not like, oh, thank God. And wait, did we pay that last life insurance premium? I'm not sure. Really, how do you want to live? And if you're worried about the kids, trust me, when my wife and I got divorced and I told my son, he's like, yeah, Dad, he goes, I'll just be like all the rest of my friends, But here's a way to change that. here's a way to actually save your marriage, you know? And I know some people that have done it, and I talked to them and they said, you know, if I had done it with my first partner, my first husband, we probably could have gotten over our issues. Cause that's really what's tripping people up. You know, it's just unresolved issues. And this medicine and this way of life and this journey, Jake, I'm telling you, it's revolutionary. And isn't it a wonder that I think it was the FDA or the government, whoever, they banned it. They banned it. Imagine that. Yeah. Because something that actually works. Yeah, because I think a celebrity took like a handful of them, you know, like someone who thought they were Keith Richards, downed a bottle of freaking Jack Daniels, and then overdosed. You know, I mean, it's not like that. It's very safe as long as you know where you're getting it from.
Yeah, for most of these plant medicines that have been used for thousands of years are actually extremely low risk, where there's really no quantified deaths as long as protocols are being, followed. Right?
To be apolitical, we just injected how many millions of people with an experimental vaccine? I mean, how many millions? Yeah. And then they said we can't tell you what's in it, or we can't tell you what we've done for, what is it, 75 years? Something like that. They've sealed the records for 75 years. You can't even do a FOIA request. It's amazing. It's amazing.
That's a whole other story, and we're gonna take a right turn away from that, just because many people feel differently about that. But we can have a conversation about that after the fact. But yeah, it's certainly a profound thing that we're seeing, and a lot of people are waking up to it. Now, the question I have for you is: so you're seeing that these plant and animal medicines being combo, or if you've heard of bufo, those are coming from actual animals instead of plants, like ayahuasca or San Pedro or things like this. For the viewers out there, what do you think it is? You can take the scientific route or a spiritual route, whatever you want to take with this question, but what do you think it is that is helping you and other people get past trauma, get past these old routines, these things that they haven't gotten over, and are able to actually work through and find new answers, new solutions, new ways of being? What do you think that is?
Well, I'll combine it. It's spiritual science, right? There's mathematics is 1 + 1 is 2. You take the right combination of this plant and add the DMT with this plant to it. How they figured it out, think about that. How did they figure this out, right? Because it's got to be just right, or it doesn't work. How did they figure this out? Where did they get this information? Just like how do they build the pyramids, right? I think it's ancient wisdom. You know, the animals. You know, the one guy licks the frog and dies, and the next guy, trips balls for a month. You know, I mean, and same thing with the mushrooms. You know, oh, this one killed Andy, and now this guy has no more trauma after being attacked by wolves. You know, I mean. It's over a period of time and space. And I mean, think about where we come from, right? You come from a sperm. My heart's beating right now, but how's it beating, right? I mean, I can turn the key in my car and it's going to start because it has a battery, but where's our battery? And they said, well, it's your brain. Well, then how does your brain work? You know, how are we moving and speaking and doing all these things right now? There has to be it has to come from energy, right? So I believe there's a higher power, a cosmic force, whatever you want to call it, and it could just be aliens fucking with us. You know, who knows? I just know there's more. So I can't really explain it. But I will say that these are gifts. For the college kids out there that just want to do this to get high or whatever. Every time I've done any of this stuff, it's been for medicinal purposes. You know, that's why. I can say I can maintain my sobriety because, when I got back from my first deployment, I couldn't sleep. So they gave me Ambien, and Ambien made me want to jump off a bridge. Okay. But hey, it's prescribed by a doctor, so it's okay. You can take it and you can, it's just ridiculous.
Kind of verging back into that, you're at an interesting intersection that I think is emerging, and being that you are ex-military, that you've had these experiences and they've helped you move past them, accept them, and to integrate them into your life. From our previous conversation before this interview, it sounds like you're guiding folks towards this path. Can you speak a little bit to why you're doing that and how you're doing that?
Sure. So, I mean, some people will never have to do a journey in their entire life, right? But I think they should. It's just my personal opinion. But before you graduate from college to get your diploma, you've got to do ayahuasca, right? Or some type of ceremony, right? Whether it be peyote or something, but something with a shaman, et cetera, to get you ready for life. To start honestly with a clean slate at 21 years old. Oh my God, Jake, if I had discovered this, who knows? I might have just dropped out of the Army and said, screw all you people. I don't know. I'm happy. Part of my program is not regretting the past nor wishing to shut the door on it. But I've been called, like what's my purpose? Oh, well, you're an Army guy. So I have many titles, right? Veteran, father, friend, brother, son, all these titles. But one of my favorite titles is mentor, because I see these young kids who are getting out, sometimes too early from the military or whatever, and they're messed up, and they turn to drugs and alcohol, and they end up in the rooms, and that's where I am. I'm in the rooms almost every day. I run a veterans recovery group on Wednesday nights here in Maryland. I run a men's group on Monday nights here in Maryland, and they come through the door and they're broken, and they're battered and they're bruised and their asses are on fire, and I hand them the extinguisher and say, hey, here's how you pull the pin. Here's how you pull the thing down. And I'll hold you still but I teach them how to put themselves out. And then eventually, it's obviously it's never the first thing I say, hey man, how's it going? Oh, you messed up. Well, let's get you down to Florida.
Yeah. So let me ask a question about that, because it's interesting, and I think that it's this is something when it comes to, right, like if you're taking veterans in, and whether they're in like a substance abuse program or you're trying to get them clean, to many people it might look like, hey, like you should consider plant medicine. You should consider what is a Schedule 1 drug right now inside of the US, like ayahuasca, or whether it's mescaline, or these other medicines that are being used and have been used for thousands of years, both in a spiritual and medicinal way. Here you are trying to get veterans clean, but yet also guiding folks to what you believe is a medicine. Like how do you navigate that kind of dichotomy, or a dichotomy as it looks like inside of the US today?
I don't know. I guess just sharing my own experience. I guess what I didn't tell you was the day before I decided to stop drinking, I was sitting in my bathroom. I had a loaded 9mm, and I was sitting on my toilet, and I had my hand in the shower, and I was waiting for the water to get warm. And as soon as it got warm, I was going to get in, and I was going to pull the trigger. And I heard a little knock on the door. My daughter, she was 3 years old, and she asked me to read her a bedtime story. And she had never come in my bedroom before, because she knew, if daddy's in the bathroom, just leave him alone, right? Because that was like my only like private, quiet time, whatever. But she came and she knocked on my door, and I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in like 18 months, bro. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're going to kill yourself. She's going to end up on a pole. She's going to end up, in a crack house somewhere on a dirty mattress. And I put my gun away. And she doesn't know. She's 10 years old. She's upstairs right here hanging out with her stepsister. And she doesn't know that yet, but she's going to someday. So to get around to get back to your question, dude, it's a matter of life and death for some people. I mean, literally, it is a matter of life and death for some people. So again, all I do is take them to the door, and I tell them, hey, look, this is a way. This is a way, and here's my experience. Oh, and by the way, I know probably another 100 other people that you can call. Right. Here's the other thing, Jake, that this is a community, man. It takes a village, right? Because I was the idiot, and this village to this day has still, like, you and I just met, right? I mean, I didn't know you from a hole in the wall, and here we are, sharing like, our intimate stuff with each other, and where else can you get that, for free? for free.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, shit, if you can hear my voice and you're depressed, or you're feeling suicidal, or you just, you're at the end of your rope and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Right. This can be, I'm not promising anything, right? Cause you have to be ready. You know how many people reach their top? Because they hit their fucking bottom first. That's why. Because they never want to live that way again. And that was me. My bottom was in a $500,000 house with a brand new car in the yard, a wife and 2 kids, and a 6-figure job. I had the life everybody wanted. Then why did I want to leave it so bad? Right? Because it didn't matter. None of the material shit mattered. And this is what the spiritual realm teaches us. When you talk to people who have passed on and you talk about, hey, where's the money? They kind of laugh. They kind of joke with you like that doesn't matter. And you're like, no, Grandpa, really? Where's the key to the safe? Like, it's gonna help Grandma, and they don't see material things. And that's the whole spiritual world. Once you're enlightened, I will tell you this too. Once you cross the other side, man, it's hard to be back in the mix of it. But you learn to accept it, and you learn that, hey, listen, someday I'm going to get there, So, and that's the great part. So you live your best life, Jake, while you're here, instead of just being some miserable shit who hates their life and hates other people at the same time. You can be, I'm not being egotistical, but you can be me. You can be Jake. You can get your life together and you can go help other people. And that's the greatest purpose on the planet.
So it sounds like to me, to answer the question that I asked, it sounds like the purpose of healing people, relieving them from these things, is what drives you to do what may seem unorthodox to other people that may lead, circles like men's groups that are trying to get clean and sober, which for those that don't have experience with a plant medicine or a medicine with wisdom, like we're talking about, it can look like we're literally talking about a Schedule 1 drug that somehow solves all these problems, but it's so much more intricate than that. And it's the research is coming out, right? Like we're seeing it with psilocybin, we're seeing it with MDMA, that it's actually solving real problems when done in ways that are therapeutic, spiritual, that have ceremony, significance behind it. Not talking about going to a party, right, and doing MDMA. We're talking about doing it with a trained facilitator or with a shaman and plant medicine, right, that can guide you through these experiences, through these parts of our soul, our spirit, our mind that we're sometimes afraid to look at, sometimes have forgotten even, and can actually purge that stuff, right? And this is not fun stuff at the same time too. Most of these medicines can make you feel like absolute garbage when you're doing them. Throwing up,
yep.
Crapping yourself,
yep.
Pain, make you see things that you didn't even know happened. Mm-hmm. I met somebody a couple of weeks ago that just had their first couple of plant medicine ceremonies. On their first one, they discovered, this person is in his 50s, discovered that he was basically chronically raped his entire childhood by a family member and a swim team member's dad who used to drive him to practice all the time. And he had to understand this, accept it in order to move past it. It's not fun stuff. It's not fun stuff, but it's important work.
Right. And so I look at it this way, you can do this in a weekend, or you can spend the rest of your life carrying that darkness and that misery around, And again, look, I'm fine. I've been, well, I know about that, right? My mom had me tested, but I'm so much better now than I was. It's, like I said, it's worth it. It's, I guess you want to call it the 1 chip challenge, right? It's gonna burn like a son of a bitch for a little bit, but don't let that deter you. There's, and Jake is right, but those are the extremes, right? And I've seen, I think 6 times. I've never thrown up. That's just me. Most people do. But again, it's just you drink a lot of water, you purge the water. It's and someone's right there with you. It's really not a big deal. But what happens afterwards is a very big deal. It's probably going to be the most important thing you've ever done for yourself in your entire life. You're basically just getting in the attic and you're clearing out all the shit, right, that you're carrying around that's weighing you down and making you say, oh, it's okay that he hits me. Oh, it's okay that he screams at the kids. It's okay that he steals my money and then goes to the bar and then goes fuck someone else. That's what happens. That's what happens because you feel so bad about yourself. The self-esteem and whatnot. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there anything for the audience that some parting wisdom, some thoughts that you would like to share before we close this interview?
Yeah. You don't have one of these, get one of these. It's a dog, right? And what's dog spelled backwards, Jay?
It's God.
It's God, man.
G-O-D.
Yep. And no matter which way you look at it, right? Man's best friend. So that's my parting wisdom.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for coming on and talking about your experience in healing trauma and all the various things in your life through plant and animal medicines. Thank you to everybody that's watching this. If you do want to reach out, feel free to comment below or, of course, reach out to me in person. We'll see you soon.